Hey guys, so I am just making this video to prove to myself that I can do this. Probably nobody's gonna watch this, and frankly, I hope they don't. Because I am freshly out of the shower, I am in my PJs, and this is definitely not rehearsed at all. I'm just doing this to prove to myself that I can do it. So, anyways, I am going to be making a video about how the menstrual cycle works. It's going to be very basic rundown of how it works. I'm doing this because I'm still learning about this myself, which is wild to think that at 34 years old, I did not know really how the menstrual cycle worked. I knew I had a period every month, and that was kind of it. While I started beginning my fertility journey, I learned a heck of a lot about a woman's body and my own body. So I want to empower you guys to know what it's like too. So here is a extremely basic breakdown of what the menstrual cycle is. So essentially there are three different factors going into the menstrual cycle. So you have your brain, your uterus, and your ovaries. And the three of them are all working together to create this cycle. So the ovaries, in their phase, or in their cycle, they have two phases. And in the uterus cycle, it also has kind of 2 to 3 phases. Well, it has more of 3 phases. And ovulation counts towards both of them. So I didn't count that as one of their numbers. Ovulation just happens in the middle. So we're going to start with the ovarian cycle. So it starts in the follicular phase, which is from day 1 of your period until ovulation occurs. This is typically about 14 days. Everything goes on a basic 28-day cycle. Mind you, normal has a range, but we're gonna go based off a 28-day cycle just because it's easy. So we're gonna count that as 14 days. What happens here is that, so obviously your period happens, but in your ovaries, as soon as your period starts, multiple follicles just start to develop. But one egg will emerge as the dominant one, and this is the one that eventually will get released. The pituitary gland, so where your brain comes in, starts producing FSH, which is follicle stimulating hormone. This signals the ovaries to prepare that egg to be ready to be released. So the dominant follicle, the one egg that becomes the main one that's going to release this cycle, starts producing high levels of estrogen. So as the egg grows, your estrogen levels start to rise. And this peaks right before ovulation happens. Then ovulation occurs. We're going to call it day 14. Again, it could vary. So when the dominant follicle releases, it's a surge in LH, which is luteinizing hormone, triggers the release of this egg, and then your estrogen levels start to drop since it was that follicle creating all the estrogen. Then you go into what's called the luteal phase. So this is from ovulation until the day before your next period starts. Oh, you fell over, I'm sorry. So this is, again, typically 14 days. It can vary. What happens here is that the empty follicle that released the egg, so think of it kind of like a balloon deflating. So it filled up, and the egg releases. So the blowhole part of the balloon opens and it starts to deflate. And this turns into what's called the corpus luteum, and this produces progesterone, mainly. And this will break down after 10 days if there is no pregnancy. The progesterone levels drop as the breakdown occurs, and the rapid rise and fall of progesterone, also estrogen, is typically what causes PMS symptoms. So that is very basic ovarian cycle. Now I'm going to talk about the uterine cycle. So first stage, remember I said this one has 3 stages. So first stage is menstruation. This is all the days that you're bleeding. This again can range, but typically kind of 3 to 6 days. This is when estrogen and progesterone are at their lowest, and blood and tissue from your previous cycle sheds. Then it moves into the proliferative phase. I think I said that right. So this is from the end of your period, so like the first day of no bleeding, until ovulation. This is when your uterus is rapidly rebuilding. So the follicle that's producing all the estrogen tells the uterus, get thick. So it starts rebuilding itself and getting as thick as it possibly can. As estrogen rises, it gets thicker and thicker. Then ovulation occurs, the surge in LH, and your estrogen starts to drop. And the pituitary gland, as I said with the ovarian cycle, tells the egg to release. As it starts to release, as I said, it starts producing progesterone, which moves your uterus into the secretory phase. This goes from ovulation until the day before your next period. So this is when the progesterone tells the uterus, stop getting thicker. Now we have to get ready for an egg to implant. From what I read online, I can't really tell what it is specifically that changes in the endometrium lining, but it knows to stop thickening, and it starts releasing receptors. So receptors that would be open to allowing the egg to implant into it, because essentially for implantation to occur, your uterus has to accept it into it. The egg just kind of floats. Here it is, floating on down, and the uterus has to be open to it. So from what I've read, there's a very small window in when your uterus is open to implantation happening. So it looks like it kind of starts about 5 days after ovulation. It starts producing these receptors, it stops thickening, and it turns into like, I don't even know the word I want to use here, but it's kind of like a ball pit. Think of like the sponge pit or the ball pit at a gym, like a gymnastics place. So when the follicle can go in, it'll eventually just start like absorbing its way into it. And so there's only kind of a maybe 5-day window where that happens within your uterus, where those receptors are present. Every other time, that does not exist. You can stick a beautiful embryo into your uterus and it will not implant if those receptors are not being triggered. However, if implantation does not occur, let me go back. If it starts getting ready for implantation, I'm jumping ahead of my own notes. So it starts producing nutrients to support a fertilized egg. If the implantation does not happen, the lining sheds and the cycle starts again. If no if no implantation occurs, prostaglandins are produced. This happens towards the end of the secretory phase, and this helps shed the lining, and this is what causes cramps. So the prostaglandins are like a wave to help push everything out. This is what causes cramps because it's literally pushing out. Sometimes you feel them, sometimes you don't. And if you're lucky like me, you don't really get cramps, but I know some people who do get them pretty bad. But this is your prostaglandins working. This also causes, I get this really bad, is like butt cramps. So like it kind of feels like you're being stabbed in the butt. That's your prostaglandins also, because it's just taking everything in that area and pushing it out. So yeah, that is a very basic breakdown of the menstrual cycle.